let's dive over now into the monthly market to see what happened in May of 2025 versus May of 2024. Okay, so first thing we want to look at, and again, these are the monthly sold status, stats, monthly sold stats, and total monthly numbers. So for example, we have the number of new listings in May of 2025 was 1,519, which was down 5.5% from May of 2024. So we actually had less new inventory come on the market, which was kind of interesting versus May of last year. And this is all for Fairfax County, Virginia. The number of sales was up down 6.2%. So inventory was down and the number of sales were down. So the difference in the amount of inventory and the amount of sales being down was about 0.7%. So we did have a little less buyer demand on those properties versus 2024. And that is, again, we have more buyer activity, but they have more choices. So net result of that is that you end up with a 0.7% drop in the total number of sales. Days on market, May of 2025 was, or 2024 was 13, May of 2025 was 15. So the properties on average are sitting for about 2 days longer. It takes them an average of 2 days longer to sell. We're actually seeing that, in a real world feel, we can see that, it's actually more like maybe 5 to 7 days longer. But statistically, it's only 2 days longer. If you look at months of inventory, we're still only at 2 months of inventory, which indicates a strong seller's market. Again, months of inventory indicates absorption rate. Absorption rate means that if there were no new listings that came on the market, and the rate of sales continued at the rate that it is right now, how long would it take to sell out of inventory? And we would actually sell out of inventory within 2 months. And so anything 5 to 6 months or below is considered a seller's market. Anything 6 months and above is considered a buyer's market. So we're still in a seller's market with regards to this as well. Our median house price, this is, of course, is what everybody's always looking at. For May of 2025, it was $790,000, which is a 3.8% gain year over year over May of 2024. And you can see it was also a significant gain compared just to April. You can see that the prices since January 1st have just continued to go up. So everybody who's sitting there waiting for prices to come down, even if we end up getting a price drop here in the next year, which I don't think we're going to do, there's no evidence of it. We're still in a strong seller's market. We're seeing everything trend the way it's going to. We may flatten a little bit, but I don't see a price drop coming. Even if we do get a little bit of a flattening on that, you're going to be so far behind because you could have bought the same house for $700,000 in January, and now that house is going to cost you $790,000. So you're losing out if you're sitting there and waiting. That's almost a 10% increase just in 2025. Okay, so median house price, I've talked about this before. I'm not going to go into that right now. I did want to look at this because there's a lot of people that are worried about the crash coming and things like that just because of Doge and the tariffs and all the news. And there's always some concern that's in the market. So we have to look at it statistically because everybody's trying to time the market. And those that are trying to time the market, quite often they end up losing because they wait as prices go up. So if you look at from 1940 up until 2022, you can see that was a total of 81 years, if my math is right. You can see there were 73 years that there was a net positive change year over year. In other words, 73 out of those 81 years, within that 12-month span, the net change was a positive change. Only 7 years had a negative change, so only 10% of the years had a negative change. And you can see here that these were like a negative 1%. That 0 was from a negative 1, so that's still considered a loss. We did have some significant loss here in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Those were some significant losses, but then that was the crash that was caused by the real estate industry. That was the Great Recession. Outside of that, there really haven't been years that the market's been flat like this, or that the market has gone up. So to try to time it, looking for that crash and looking for a crash that's going to be significant enough to make up for the appreciation that happens while you're waiting, is a challenge that is probably not worth taking. The other aspect of it is that if you're waiting for interest rates to come down, as soon as those rates start coming down, there's a lot of buyers waiting on the fence. They're going to flood the market, and you think you're going to save on your mortgage payment, but you're actually going to end up paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 more for the property because of a bidding war. So it's always the best time to go in the market right now, unless there's an obvious crash happening, but we haven't seen anything since 2007, 8, and 9. Before that, we probably won't see anything again for a long time. There's a lot of safety mechanisms in place to keep that from happening. So if you're a buyer, now's a great time to buy. If you're a seller, it's still a great time to get on the market, but you just have to be prepared appropriately and get that top market value. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at 703-783-2143, and we will be back next week. Have a great day.